The gospel is historical. Now, you see this, of course, with the fact that the word good news, the word gospel shows up twice. And gospel means good news. And then you even see it spelled out a little bit when it says, we're born again into a living hope through faith in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Why do we say the gospel is good news? Some years ago, I heard a tape series, I'm sure it was never put into print, by David Martin Lloyd-Jones, an evening sermon series on 1 Corinthians 15, and he made a distinction, extremely clarifying, very much in line with what Don has already told us about how the gospel is based on historical events in a way that other religions just aren't. He said there's a big difference between advice and news. The gospel, he would say, is good news, not good advice. And here's what he said about that. He said advice is counsel about something to do, and it hasn't happened yet, but you can do it. He says news is a report about something that has happened yet. You can't do anything about it. It's been done for you, and all you can do is respond to it. So he says, now think this out. Here's a king, and he goes into a battle against an invading army to defend his land. If the king defeats the invading army, he sends back to the capital city messengers, angeloi, very happy angeloi, okay? He sends back good newsers. And what they come back with is a report. They come back and they say, it has been defeated, it's all happened, it's all been done, and therefore respond with joy, and now go about your lives, conduct your lives in this peace which has been achieved for you. But if he doesn't defeat the invading army, if the invading army breaks through, the king sends back military advisors and says, over here, and marksmen over here, and the horsemen over here, and we're going to have to fight for our lives. Dr. Lloyd-Jones said every other religion sends military advisors to people. Every other religion says, if you want your salvation, you're going to have to fight for your life. Every other religion is sending advice and saying, now here are the rites, and here's the rituals, and here's the transformations of consciousness, and here's the, here are the laws and the regulations, and here's all the things that if earthenworks over here, marksmen over here, horsemen over here, you're going to fight for your life. But we send heralds. We send messengers, not military advisors. And isn't that clarifying? It's just incredibly clarifying. And it doesn't mean there's nothing to do about it. My goodness. I mean, there's all kinds of, both messengers and military advisors get an enormous response, but one is a response of joy and one is a response of fear. And all other religions give advice and they drive everything you're doing on fear. And you know what? As you know, when you hear the gospel, when you hear a message that it's all been done for you, it's a historical event that's happened. Your salvation has been accomplished for you. Okay? What do you want to do? You want to obey the Ten Commandments. You want to pray. You want to please the one who did this for you. If, on the other hand, you send a military advisor to say you're going to have to live a really, really good life if you're going to get to heaven, what do? You want to pray. You want to obey the Ten Commandments. Looks the same, doesn't it? For two radically different reasons. One is joy, one is fear. And in the end, I mean, in the short run, they look alike. But in the long run over here is both burnout and self-righteousness and guilt and all sorts of problems. Isn't that fascinating? Now, having said that, what's the ministry implication? Okay. The ministry implication is this. The significance of declarative preaching, the significance of proclamation, declarative preaching, is irreplaceably central to gospel ministry. Declarative preaching is irreplaceably central. Why? If basically we were sending people how to, if we were saying, here's how to live in the right way, if that's the primary message, I'm not sure words are always necessarily the best thing to send. You want to send a model. If I was teaching, and I never have, an advanced seminar on preaching, I would make everybody read C.S. Lewis's Studies in Words. It's amazing, because we're wordsmiths, and he shows you how important it is to craft your words properly. The last chapter is called At the Fringe of Language. And he says language can't do everything. And one of the things he says is language cannot actually describe complex operations. He says, for example, don't ask somebody, please tell me how to tie a tie. No, you just show them. You know, if you listen to somebody describe how to tie a tie, you'll be totally lost. On the other hand, when it comes to describing how did, to explain to somebody that Joshua Chamberlain, without ammunition, charged down a little round top in an incredible, risky adventure at the height of the Battle of Gettysburg, and as a result changed the course of history. You don't show people that necessarily, you tell them that. This is something that happened, you describe it, you tell them that. If you're going to give them how-tos, very often what you want is modeling and dialogue and action and reflection and so forth. Therefore, if you believe that the gospel is good news, preaching, declarative preaching, verbally proclaiming, will always be irreplaceably central to what we do. And if you really think that basically the gospel is good advice on how to live a life that sort of changes people and connects to God, if you've really lost your grip on the grace, I think preaching then becomes one of, dialogue would be all right, or stories and reflection and modeling, that's more important. In other words, you really would believe then what some people quip, proclaim the gospel, use words if necessary. You've probably heard that. And that shows, I think, that they don't quite understand what the gospel is about.